Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq, with daily insight on the Nasdaq-100 index, or the NDX, which is made up of 100 of the largest domestic and international non-financial innovative companies listed on Nasdaq. The NDX has been the barometer for U.S. large cap growth and also one of the best performing indexes over the last decade and a half, not to mention one of the most liquid index ecosystems in the world. Joining me this Monday afternoon is Dearborn, Managing Director with Nasdaq's Market Intelligence Desk, for an update on technical levels to watch in the Nasdaq-100. And Chris, before we get to those fresh levels and what's performing in the Nasdaq-100, let's talk about geopolitics, because for a while, traders have been focused on earnings and interest rates and inflation and the pandemic, but now what's happening in Afghanistan really is front and center for you guys.
Absolutely. So as you said, there are always macro events that impact equities. And when you look at stocks across the board, you look at three main things. You look at the macro environment, which can impact the entire market as a whole, sector items that impact not only the specific equity, but their peers as well, and stock-specific items. Right now, macro is front and center again with the global issues, especially with what's going on in the Middle East. The fear there is that you're going to move to more defensive posture on investing and away from potential growth items because of the uncertainty. And one thing traders do not like, it's uncertainty. And that's what's happening here right now, especially with Afghanistan. The reversal of fortunes, really, and some of the backtracking that the president's done by sending more troops over to safeguard some of the people out. So there's a lot of going on there. The question is, what will that lead to down the road? The immediate impact right now is that the markets are kind of hovering in an unchanged phase for the last 2 weeks while this is playing itself out, and that'll continue until something happens, good, bad, or indifferent.
Right, and Chris, you bring up a great point. The market is always going to be worried about something, and we even saw the reversal of fortune from this morning with the S&P 500 and the Dow off their lows. In fact, they're in the green right now. Nasdaq, of course, lagging behind. It's the larger constituents within the index that are dragging it down a bit. And to your point, the market's taking a little bit more of a defensive posture. So with that said, let's pull up your first chart here with the Nasdaq-100 and take a look at some fresh levels.
As before, we're hovering near all-time highs. What's interesting about the NDX hasn't made a new all-time high, even though we've been bouncing near that level since August 5th. So you're closing in at almost 2 weeks of close to the highs, but not quite making new higher highs. That being said, that's showing that we're in a holding pattern here with the index, despite a lot of the earnings that are coming out. And a lot of them are very robust. So what you're looking at here is, I want to point out three specific things. One, the index right now is trading at 15,100. It opened this morning just below that level of 15,090. If the index can hold above the opening price on the closing basis, even though it's down on the day, that's going to be a near-term buy signal for the index. Two, the relative strength index, which you can see at the bottom of the chart, is trading at about a 59. That's telling me that you've had some selling in the stock, reducing price points a little bit, but the index hasn't really moved that much lower, meaning that there is room to high. Remember, a 30 is an oversold, a 70 is overbought. We haven't hit a real 70 level since early July when the index pulled back and then rallied back up to make new higher highs. And three, when you're only trading, less than 100 points from the all-time high, 15,184, give or take, is where we are. There's a lot of room here to the downside on the fear factor part of it, but support is very, very tight. If you look at the 50-day moving average, which is the purple line across the chart, it stands at 14,650. That's major support for this. So even if it pulls back, it's not going to pull back that much.
All right, Chris, let's wrap up here with our last chart. As I mentioned before, we know the larger constituents are pulling it down a bit here, but where are you seeing some outperformance today?
Absolutely. Apple's been very strong. It's up 1% today, adding nearly 20 points to the index. Facebook is in positive territory, as is Microsoft, Costco, Pepsi, and PayPal, all adding well to the index. On the flip side of it, Tesla had some news out over the weekend. That's detracting by about 27 to 30 points. NVIDIA is off as well. You're really split down the middle. Half of the membership is up, half the membership is down today, and the index is off, small, 35 points right now.
All right, Chris, appreciate the insight as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.